I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Monee Village Board on July 27, 2016. If you'll please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gray is not here. Trustee Halston?
Present.
Horn?
Yes, here.
Pop?
Here.
Graysick?
Present.
And Gonzalez?
Here.
Thank you. Open to the public, agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come to the podium, give your name and address. Okay, no takers. Move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Discussion.
Okay.
I'm sorry. F3. How can we go about redistricting that section of Main Street's residential?
That would be, first of all, this is simply acknowledging what the P&Z committee recommended to us. This is not a matter of making any changes. This is simply
later. Okay.
This is simply an acknowledgement of that.
Okay.
So we can discuss that when we get to that point if you choose.
I make the motion we approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Holston and Horn. Roll call, please.
Trustee Halston?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Graysick?
No.
Gonzalez?
No.
Okay.
3 ayes.
Okay. Thank you. Court's report.
I just wanted to mention that the Knights of Columbus did their annual request to be on our streets, which the board voted in to make it a Parks and Rec decision, just to kind of funnel the paperwork through, which Mary Jo Benson has done. They'll be out September 16th, 17th, and 18th. Last year they raised $7,000 for 5 locations, and I think we should also
Great.
end the report.
Thank you, sir.
What's the date?
September 16th, 17th, and 18th. What date? What?
It's their annual intellectual disabilities fund drive.
Understood. Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything else? Okay. I believe at this point it would be appropriate to go to executive session pertaining to matters of personnel, labor, negotiations, items listed under section O of the agenda. We have counsel here pertaining to contract negotiations, so matters of personnel, collective bargaining, appointment, litigation, whatever. So, all the above. Any of the above. Entertain a motion to approve going to executive session.
I'll entertain the motion. Second.
Graysick and then Horn. Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Graysick?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Trustee.
Yes.
Thank you. We will be back. That's right.
Stop.
I have no idea.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the time is now 8:17 on Wednesday, July 27, 2016. I need a roll call coming back from executive session, please.
Trustee Gonzalez? Excuse me.
I said here.
Holston,
Yes.
Horn,
Here.
Pop,
Yes.
and Racy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. At this time, I am going to make my reappointment recommendation for management and personnel, and I will, as follows. Village Administrator Ruben Bautista, Village Finance Director Darrell Boliner, Public Works Supervisor David Crizel, Economic Development Coordinator or Director? Okay. Kevin Daly.
Correct. I believe it's correct. That's what it says on my business card.
As a director?
It says director.
As a director? I thought so. So when did you clarify that, I guess? Front Office Supervisor Michelle Powell. Executive Assistant for Public Works Jill Donati. And Executive Assistant for Police Department Elise Bednarzik. Is that correct? Yes. I'd entertain a motion to approve those recommendations considered. Yes, please. All right, so I'll skip that one, I'll go back to it.
So moved.
Holston, can you do a second?
I'll make a second on that.
Horn? Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
No.
Racy,
Abstain.
Gonzalez,
No.
I'll vote in favor to just settle the issue. Salary appropriation ordinance will be modified as follows. There was a draft copy included in your packet.
Question, clarification. On the last vote, the abstaining vote said what?
It is the majority, but it's still 2-2, so the mayor has the right to break the tie.
And we have quorum, no issue,
Yes,
because
sir.
it's financial.
Technically, all you need is 4 members, you've got 6.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on the agenda is salary appropriation ordinance. Village administrator, $99,900. Village police chief, $102,675. Village finance director, $85,000. Police sergeants, $37 per hour. Public works supervisor, superintendent, I need to clarify that too. Public works superintendent is $85,000. Economic development director, $50,000. Parks and recreation I think it's Parks and Recreation director, $53,280. I still need, can I go ahead and, even though it's out of sequence?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
it's all part of the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Front office supervisor, $53,000. Executive assistant, public works, $34,000. Executive assistant, police, $44,000. With those modifications to the draft presented to you, I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Horn, and then Holston. Roll call, please.
Trustee
Comments?
Holston?
I'm sorry.
Comments?
Yeah, sure.
In these, I believe that these are being done in recognition of the village trying to stay in a competitive situation to attract top-notch people. We believe we have some top-notch people, but we want to continue to keep them and attract in the future more people. It's
And
not,
retain as well.
yeah, and we want to be able to retain them, and this is in recognition of what we need to do to be competitive as a village to compete with the communities in the area. This was done with a lot of data, not just with opinions. The finance director did an excellent job of providing us that data, and we're certainly not in the top of the area in terms of our pay scale, but we're not in the bottom. We're close, but we're at least going to be more competitive.
Okay, any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Larry, just so we don't miss a beat here, do you want to go ahead, do you want to just go ahead and,
Did the ordinances?
yeah, that one,
Oh,
There's an ordinance number for that?
I'm sorry, yes, appropriation ordinance would be ordinance number what?
Passed it yet?
We did. Yes,
1753, we passed it.
yes, we did. Correct, yes, sir.
What did you say the number was? I couldn't hear you.
1753.
Thank you.
We're going to jump ahead real quickly to the front office supervisor ordinance, which would be K4. Larry, if you would, I think we understand the context of what was included in there. Let me just review to make sure that one,
it's in there.
the exempt, I'm serious.
Oh, it's already got the,
Stipend.
I'll put it in.
Okay, so just to clarify, in K4, it was determined that this ordinance as presented will have one modification to it that would stipulate, and we probably need to modify our other ordinance that pertains to the stipend associated with the deputy clerk, and we should probably do that very long, just to clarify. But council will add one provision in this particular ordinance that would in this particular position, it would eliminate the stipend for deputy clerk, because this would actually be expected to carry both responsibilities. Okay. So with that one paragraph, I'm assuming added, we need a motion to approve that ordinance K4.
I'll second.
So that was Pop and then Razik. Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Holston?
Yes.
Okay.
Ordinance number?
54.
1754. Thank you very much. Can we just go back to our regular sequence? Under the administrative report, I apologize that our administrator's not here. There's some family health issues he has having to attend to, and I'm sure he and his family would appreciate your prayers. In his absence, let me just bring up to speed on the status here. We have had dialogue with the chief judge for Will County pertaining to the use of our facilities here for holding the Eastern Will County Court through the Will County Circuit Court, and working out the details and nuances of the agreement. It looks like they must have used the same agreement for the last 50 years or something like that, because I don't think much has changed in technology and whatever else, their expectations and such. So they're just working out a few of those details. I know Larry, DJ, Ruben, Daryl are all going to be involved in making sure that we get all that worked out. But just to give you an update on that. And They're anticipating having consistently 2 hearings, if you will, per month, with an option for a third. Generally speaking, their compensation to us will be, I believe, $1,000 per meeting, per hearing. And, but we will have to provide certain things as expectations to go along with that. Police escort to address the to and from court, and also the financial transport for any cash or whatever they may actually have here, so they'll have that police escort to the bank. So a few things like that that they're asking for, and just working out the details on that. So just give you an update on that. And I don't believe, Chief, do you know when they were talking about actually starting that?
October.
Okay, so we got a little bit of time yet before that takes place.
Question on that?
Yes, sir.
We were talking about an alternate entrance and exit for people to the court. Is that still part of the?
We're evaluating that. That was one of the things that they had requested, was even a separate entrance for the judge and state's attorney or representative or whatnot. Our current structure doesn't really afford as much of a separated entrance. So we're trying to figure out exactly what that entails. They like to be able to walk in the building without walking past everybody that's sitting here waiting to share their frustrations with us. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to manage that, probably giving them an access through the side door. Since they'll be escorted by the police when they're arriving and such anyhow, we'll figure out how that works. Don't know if they'll ultimately end up using my office in the conference room at times, based on what the specific needs are. But we're trying to work out some of those details as well, to make sure that we provide them as much as we can and close to their expectations.
Sure.
Okay. Next one. Qualified bid specs. DJ, do you care to elaborate on that, on the project? And I believe we had a bid opening at 4 o'clock today. Approximately.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Part of the Egyptian Trail process.
Just
Hello. Thank you. Mic check. Part of the bid process for QBS. QBS is basically a process when we were awarded the $1.5 million extra for the Egyptian Trail project. Phase 3 engineering could be awarded an additional $324,000 through the state funds to be able to hire an engineer qualified, pre-IDOT screened and certified engineer qualified to be able to oversee the actual construction process of Phase 3, which is the construction of our project, which is the Egyptian Trail roadway reconstruction project. So we had to assemble a team and put together some certain parameters, and I apologize, a phone call came in at 6:30 this evening with Ruben to be able to present this, but 3 engineering firms or several engineering firms were given our bid specifications to the Phase 3, since it was already public knowledge that we had entered into an agreement with Farnsworth Engineering for that Phase 3 service, with this being part of that qualification process. Farnsworth was also included in some of the engineering firms given the parameters set forth for the bid, and there'll be a panel, a selection panel that will screen the applicants. That process, those forms were to be due in today by 4 p.m. Not a bid opening, but more of the review process. The bid documents needed to be received by 4 p.m. today. And then we will assemble a team panel. I believe it was explained to me the administrator, finance director, and the superintendent will review the applicants, check qualifications, make sure who is and who will serve the community well, and then we will go ahead and award that project to that engineer firm based on the parameters set forth in the bid specs. So the administrator did take care of that bid spec document so that we can gain that additional $324,000, and we will keep you updated. I believe Ruben stated, the administrator stated that at the August 10th board meeting is when we will discuss the
Okay.
results of that. So it's just to get some additional funding to be able to pay for this project. Questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay. We've got nothing else on the agenda. Officials report, Public Works. Trustee Gray's not here. Superintendent Crizel, do you have anything you want to talk about the opening of that?
I'll let you talk about that, sir, but you did it in your report, so I guess you're leaving that on me. Thank you again. Public Works report. The road construction project is progressing. We have been updating the village website, www.villagemonee.org, to try to keep residents in tune. One of them this evening that was here that could not stay the duration thanked us for the updates. She's been reading them. We're getting that as much as possible. There's been a few delays with utility crossings that we were assured wouldn't be an issue. Once you dig, you find that they're an issue, so we're scheduling around that. You never know what's under the ground until you start digging, so we have enough work to keep them busy. If we don't come to a resolve soon, you may see work stop for a few, but we're trying to keep that process moving along as fast as possible, and we'll keep updating the website accordingly to keep people informed. The sidewalk project is progressing, although the firm that had won that bid, Davis Concrete, to redo the 88 corners, asked for an extra week to be able to assemble and get the concrete installed. Based on the performance that they were doing, we granted them 1 extra week to get the concrete in, but we did not grant them the restoration time. They have to still follow the restorations and get this done. We didn't want to prolong that any longer. The reason being was they did some additional sidewalks and curbs that just took a little bit longer in weather and so on and so forth. So they've been performing. We're addressing other issues with that, but that's going on schedule, and when it's all said and done, should look great. They will go back, they will add sod to the areas that were being torn out and restored in the fall months. IDOT says don't put any sod in June, July, August, so September is when the sod will go in, so that restoration will be done. And street patching should begin shortly. We were measuring quantities and discussing that with the contractor to make sure that they cut those areas out, clean them up, make them look nice, and do the full depth patch in there as well. We will keep notifying everybody as far as projects on how they go, and I would like to probably let the board know that if we are going to have a meeting of the whole, so to say, meeting at the next meeting, I would like to bring up the smoke testing results that we had, basically what we found out with the smoke testing, and then talk about the Public Works plan to fix some of the sanitary as well, and give you the proposal of what we would like to do. We've set some budget numbers already within this fiscal budget in order to be able to take care of that, and based on the water rate increases in the funds that we've been receiving, you can confirm that with Daryl. We have enough money to be able to take care of some of the repairs that we have, but I would like to at least discuss it before I go in there and start knocking you guys down for a whole bunch of money, and we don't know what's going on with that. So if we can schedule a next meeting of the whole, because those workshops seem to work, I'm requesting that as a department head to let my trustees know what's going on, other than letting one trustee know what's going on, or 2 or 3 or whoever. So as far as the other public works goes, there's been a lot of chatter about parks and about the damage going on with the parks. There has been new damage going on with the parks. We've been addressing them every day. We keep a parts list of each parts, nuts, bolts, things of that nature, but somebody has been vandalizing the parks. Police Chief Slipkar and I are both aware of it, and I'm sure he's alerted his staff for the increased presence of that as well. Potawatomi Park being one of the major ones where people were sending in pictures. We had already put in over $700 worth of repairs to that park. It is off the road and up quite a ways, so it is kind of out of that line of sight direct from the street. That seemed to be the one that was getting hit. I have not seen any issues with that lately, but we check them every day and just ask that if the public sees anybody, kids, anything along that lines, tampering, sees issues, please let us know, or let the police know, call right away. But we stay on top of that as well. And tree stumps were taken care of in that department. We just stump ground. We've been doing full restorations for this year's tree removal. We are going to the nurseries to plant and pick out our trees. It's been pretty busy here. I haven't been able to do that. Fall tree planting, now the budget's passed, we want to get that taken care of to have some nice trees for this fall. And that is underway as well. And I think that's it. I need a vacation. Anything else?
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Just for public awareness, it's not officially open yet, but due to the bottlenecks of alleviating the only option of traffic going in and out of the Highlands, if you recall, Sunrise and Roosevelt used to open into Cleveland years ago when it was originally put in. It is being reopened at least seasonally during the construction time to allow another option in and out of the subdivision. That at this point is only intended to be a temporary measure, but we still have to do it safely. So that's being addressed, and we've had a lot of times where there's been a lot of work going on, and with Egyptian Trail going to be a major deal further in the year and the next year, it makes sense to have another option. At some point, I'm not sure, I think DJ, you were suggesting even having a way to put a gate or something across there so that if fire or anybody else ever needed another way to get in there.
You know, brainstorming ideas, Mayor is correct. Some residents have approached us for another means of egress out of that subdivision. We voiced some concerns with how it was in the past, where trucks were getting lost in there. It seemed to be a big, hectic, chaotic mess, as well as would it help the residents get in and out in the morning with Cleveland not being realigned yet. Maybe in the future with the realignment process and everything in an intersection that's going to, is already under design and is going to be built, that egress would be ideal for people to get in and out once that signalization works. So we're trying to develop, we have to do a design study for that intersection. It is not a safe intersection for people to travel through. We have new stop signage to try to stop that, to kind of control that area. They're flagged, they're marked. We're going to have some pavement put in there to help with that egress. Weight limit signs have been posted. We're trying to do the best we can, but please use caution in that intersection. It is only designed right now as a temporary. That intersection design study is probably going to have to be done because the radius on the turns are not designed for the size of trucks that are turning on there. So you're going to find semis sweeping into oncoming lanes to make that turn to go and follow Cleveland towards the I-57. It's too tight of a turn, and so I commend you know, the board of the past and what they did and how the foresight was to be able to have that area for our commercial along that frontage road, but unfortunately the size of the trucks are too long, or can be even longer now, and those radiuses are really tight. So that might have to be opened up. We're doing what we can. You're going to see extra stone in there. You're probably going to see curbs being hopped by semi-trucks. If you're respect the semi-trucks in those areas, please do not just try to get through there because they may sweep into your lane. You may see that. So we're trying to take preventative measures to be able to fight that off. We're putting cinder blocks by the fire hydrant. I don't need that knocked over. We're trying to keep the signs for the stop signs offset a little bit more to allow them, you know, to respect that semi-truck. So at an intersection at the stop, you know, stop bars are being painted. Use caution. There were some dead trees over there. There's a sidewalk that leads to nowhere. That'll be closed. But just use caution in that intersection. It will be paved. That sidewalk, that curb will be removed. I've got mixed reaction from the residents. Some people love it. Some people hated it. I'll leave that to the board to decide whether they want to make it permanent or not in the future. Right now, it just seems to be a good egress for temporary, whether people can get in and get out at Monee, Manhattan. I'll leave that to them. Hopefully we won't see an increased traffic and have to you know, deal with that then. If we make it temporary with a gate, we can do that as well. But right now it's just a temporary means. We can always barricade it, close it back off, do whatever we got to do in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation, trustee Gonzalez.
Two little short things. Wanted to remind or tell everybody, Tuesday, August 2nd at Fireman's Park at 6 p.m. We're going to have a free party in the park. Everyone is welcome. It's a free event to support and recognize Lincoln Way Special Recreation. The South Suburban Special Recreation Association is sponsoring the event. Bounce houses, DJ dance party, and a special appearance by Mickey and Minnie. And everyone is welcome. And everybody just last Friday night, we had a classic movie in the park. 44 people attended it, and it was moved inside because of the extreme heat. It is dancing in the rain, I guess, was enjoyed by all. So again, thank you for that.
And singing in the rain.
And singing.
They did
It's
dancing and
singing
singing.
in the rain, that's right. I understand. So it was
Gene
moved
Kelly.
inside.
Gene Kelly. Okay.
That one. End of report.
Okay, thank you. Please interject with Doug on his finance, trustee Horn.
Yeah, you may interject. So I have
This
a,
whole point goes here.
that was great. I have a finance report here. It's a little bit lengthy, but I think it's good information. And thank you to our finance director for putting this together. Audit field work will begin August 15. Our finance director met with the auditors this past week to discuss audit expectations. And then after an entire year without an operating budget, the Illinois breathed a sigh of relief on June 30th when Republican Governor Bruce Rauner and the Democratic legislature finally agreed to a temporary plan to get state government through the end of the calendar year. And that also means that schools are funded for this year. A significant change is taking place at the Illinois Secretary of State's office. The change improves upon the design and issuing process of Illinois driver's licenses and ID cards. Applicants visiting driver services facilities will no longer be issued a permanent card at the end of the application process. You know, you go in, you get your picture taken, and they have a laminating machine. Instead, they will leave the facility with a temporary secure paper driver's license, which is valid for 45 days, and will serve as their ID for driving purposes and proof of identification. For air travel, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security states that it will accept the temporary document in conjunction with the old ID to board an aircraft until the permanent card arrives in the mail. Therefore, the faculty employee will return the old ID card back to the applicant after punching a hole in it. Meanwhile, the applicant's information will be sent to a centralized, secure facility in Illinois after fraud checks have been conducted to ensure the applicant's identity. A higher quality, more secure ID will be printed and sent via U.S. mail within 15 business days to the applicant's address. In 2014, President Obama, this is a new paragraph, by the way, directed new topic. The Secretary of Labor to update the overtime regulations to reflect the original intent of the Fair Labor Standards Act and to simplify and modernize the rules so they're easier for workers and businesses to understand and apply. The department has issued a final rule. The final rule will raise the salary threshold indicating eligibility from $455 a week to $913, which adds up to $47,000 per year. Automatically update the salary threshold every 3 years based on wage growth over time, increasing predictability, and strengthen overtime protections for salaried workers already entitled to overtime. This will provide greater clarity for workers and employers. The final rule will become effective December 1. The final rule does not make any changes to the duties test for executive, administrative, and professional employees. And then important dates to remember: in July, the annual appropriation ordinance has been passed and submitted to the Will County Clerk's office. We did that already. In October, compensation of elected officials, including those of home rule units, must be fixed at least 180 days before the beginning of the terms of the officials whose compensation is to be fixed. And then October 31, for municipalities having a fiscal year which begins May 1, the Treasurer's report for the preceding year must be filed with the clerk by the end of October. And the municipal clerk shall publish the account in a newspaper published in the municipality, or if no newspaper is published therein, then a newspaper having a general circulation. In municipalities with a population less than 500, the account need only be published in 3 prominent places in the town. Regarding the property tax rebate program, information regarding the proposed property tax bill will be available in the village's next newsletter. And then lastly, the first budget report will be available for the first board meeting in August. End of report.
No questions, Ed? Business development, trustee Olson.
Dollar General's moving on. September 13th, I'll be in a meeting with Kevin Daly at Bolingbrook for the 10th Annual Global Logistics Summit. August 24th, economic development role of elected officials and appointed officials on economic development will be meeting in Frankfurt, and Mr. Daly and I will be attending that. End of report.
Thank you, sir. Building services, trustee Pop.
No report.
Public safety, trustee Raisik.
Yes, I just got one thing. It's a statement from the police department. Since the assassination of 5 law enforcement officers upholding their oath to the Constitution while protecting others, exercising their rights in Dallas, Texas on July 7th, 3 more officers in Baton Rouge lost their lives on the 17th, another in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania on the 18th, another in Kansas City, Kansas on the 19th, and just days ago in Traverse County, Texas, another on the 25th. It is unfathomable that we lost 11 law enforcement officers who were someone's husband or father or brother to homicide based on the uniform they were wearing in the past 19 days. People have reached out to the Monee Police Department for assurance and comfort. For some, it was just a handshake and a thank you. For others, we are humbly accepted their thank you cards, all handmade by children and their parents, asking us to be careful. Some, it was gifts of substance in form of pasta, baked goods, Gatorade, and water. Even poetry attached to a goodie bag explaining what each item inside the bag for officers meant to them. Most humbling was the gift of prayer. People came to the police department just to sit inside and pray for us. I can't tell you how much we appreciated all of it, but we are going to get all really fat if folks don't stop bringing in the food. We just want to say thank you. We will always do our best to preserve the peace and uphold the law in Monee, Illinois. End of report.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a few items for the board's consideration. The first item, I believe, I do not have an ordinance ready for review, but this application permit submitted by Mr. Bud Love, I believe his name is, for a special use permit, I believe was denied at the zoning board meeting. They made a recommendation to, if I was the one, what the gentleman wanted to do, I believe, was change the zoning for the area by Main Street, and the board had justifiable concerns, and again, the vote was 5-1 against his special use permit. I don't believe the gentleman's here tonight, so accordingly, I don't have an ordinance.
Just, Larry, help me out on this. Traditionally, I believe it's the role of the board to address, to recognize the recommendation of the planning commission.
Yes, sir.
The property owner was represented by council at planning commission meeting.
Yes.
And they understood at that time that traditionally, at least with Monee, the way it was in most towns, I believe, the village board typically honors the recommendation of the planning commission unless there is an issue of substance in the way something was not handled properly. So it's almost like an appeals or acceptance or appeal.
Correct.
Mr. Dresback, I know you're on the planning commission. Do you have anything you'd like to say in regards to the situation at all, or just leave it the same?
Just on the situations as it was proposed, the request was denied.
Okay.
What was the vote on that?
So, 5-1 against. The request was to take a commercial space. I think the planning commission recognizes the need, as we've discussed in here at one point, of doing a comprehensive reanalysis of a lot of our zoning areas to find out best or better uses. That is obviously the old downtown. May or may not ever have a complete reinvigoration as a commercial area. I think that there's an understanding of common use that would be commercial on the main floor, mixed use, commercial on the main floor, residential potentially upstairs. There was some concern that was stated pertaining to the fact that this particular individual had begun work without a permit. A stop work order permit, or a stop work order was issued on it. And that there's also a few other issues that were involved, inconsistent with the pattern of planning commission, that there's parking issues. One of the things we need to keep in mind is some of the properties over there don't have any parking of their own. They rely upon parking on the streets. If you're gonna have a residential area there, one of the problems we have to recognize is Public Works has the duteous task of plowing the streets, and it's really hard to plow the streets when somebody's sleeping and their car's not moving off the street and you're trying to plow. If it's commercial, which is currently the zoning, and they are parked on the street, typically that vehicle is not going to be there hours on end. And there's somebody, usually if it's commercial, there's somebody there to move the vehicle if necessary. Prolonged parking on the streets creates an issue there, and that's what we've had problems with in other properties. Also, talking to the fire chief, there's been potential problems in the lack of space between buildings. We know these are older existing buildings. Some of them might have a 6 or 8 foot gap between them. Current standards require, I believe, 15 feet between buildings without requiring a sprinkler system. So those are some of the things you think about. Now, admittedly, would there be a potential long-term use in that area that would afford us to have some apartments or townhomes or something like that? Possibly. But it probably would not necessarily be with the existing structures that have been tweaked and modified so many times that they don't really have good frontage or access of their own. Unfortunately, sometimes you run into a situation where properties have overextended their usefulness as is, and sometimes they need to, in some cases, be torn down and rebuilt with something better. The recommendation of the planning commission was not to approve the request to allow residential on the main floor. What is the statement on the agenda here, Lauren?
I believe it was under the consent agenda, number 3.
No, K1, actually. K1. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Correct. I'm saying K1 though.
Okay.
So unless the board has a compelling reason to ignore the recommendation of the planning commission, and I would think it would be hard to do that considering that Mr. Budlev or his counsel are not present to make a stated objection to the findings. I don't know that do I even ask for a...
I think we may want to consider Mayor to put on the record motion tonight and special use permit so we can then send it
Fine.
to officially notify.
Yeah, discussion here, Trustee Olson.
I'll make the motion first, and then we'll have discussion. I'll make a motion that we affirm the zoning committee's decision.
Understood. Somebody want to second that?
Second.
So we have Holston.
That's a double negative. Now, my comment would be that I believe I'm correct that the zoning committee's only had 2 meetings all year.
How many?
too. I live in Old Monee. I live downtown on Main Street, and I've lived there for a few years now. The area is becoming less attractive to live in when these homes or when these commercial buildings just continue to sit there and deteriorate and aren't used for anything. I'd like to see I've been on the zoning committee, Syd, so I know the challenge there, but if the zoning committee does not meet every month, they can't address zoning issues. I'd like to see the zoning committee meeting monthly and beginning to address the zoning issues we have in the community, not just this, but others. Personally, I don't think that's a good area to have commercial zoning. There's nothing happening there at all other than a bar and a post office. Everything else in its present state, not going to make it. But I think the zoning committee needs to be able to have the ability to meet monthly and review this so that they can make some progress on adapting some of this. I was hampered, excuse me, when I was on the zoning committee because we weren't allowed to meet every month.
Well,
And the issue's the same.
I don't know what the conditions were when you were chairman of the planning commission, Trustee Olson. But to the best of my knowledge, the way it's always been told to me and the way I've interpreted it, planning commission has the pre-scheduled opportunity to meet every third Wednesday if they choose.
No, sir, that's not true. They've been kept from doing that.
Not by us.
Okay, I've talked to two different people, former members of the zoning committee, both have told me they wanted to meet, they were not allowed to meet.
That, Michelle, you're the one who schedules it for them. If I ever, okay.
So I think the direction that I would ask, excuse me, I'm not meaning to shout, it's not working that well, apologize. The direction I would ask is that the zoning committee meet monthly and take this issue on hand so that whoever owns that property over there has some idea of what it can be used for, because right now they're not able to do anything the way it is.
If I may I do this? It was established at the last planning and zoning meeting that we will meet the third Wednesday of each month.
Okay, perfect.
And the only thing that's ever been stipulated, I know Trustee Olson is, they have an obligation to meet no less, or at a minimum, of any time there's a special use or variance. That's the minimum. We've actually addressed, DJ, I think you were involved in one of the discussions. We had encouraged them months ago to have meetings pertaining to all the exceptions for, we have so many exceptions for fences and shrubs and all this kind of stuff. We'd actually encourage them to have meetings just to address, make the exceptions rules so that it becomes standard, so you no longer have to have somebody pay extra for a variance or special use. Just figure out what the consistent exceptions are and make a new rule. And we had, DJ, you were involved in that meeting. I think Kevin, you might have been involved in it at one point. So we had made those recommendations, and they could have had a meeting anytime they wanted to.
I know, I asked for meetings when I was chair, it was told no.
That's never told by me.
You weren't there.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, Trustee Olson, I was not aware that there was ever that perception, because I never understood that.
Okay.
So they've been, Michelle, you've been in the office, you know, I mean, anytime they've
Well,
ever.
and I will remember being on planning and zoning too, that there was a couple of years, frankly, that there was absolutely nothing going on, so we didn't need to meet every month. So I know that there was several months, not, certainly more than 2 a year for sure, but there were several months when there was absolutely no business to conduct, so we had foregone the meetings those months.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't remember ever anybody telling us that we couldn't meet.
I think we actually asked them to have extra meetings when I first came into office pertaining to signage. So
Yeah, we did, when you came in, we did.
Yeah, and that wasn't because of and just so everybody here understands and I know two of you here, three now, either are or were on the planning commission, but on a formality, somebody comes to town and wants to build a building, as long as what they're doing is consistent with their building codes, they don't have to go to the planning commission to get that approved. They don't need anybody's blessings. We're trying to make it as easy and streamlined as possible, where if they're doing something that's completely consistent with all of their building codes, they simply go get a permit. So based on that permitting, that doesn't require us to be involved, it doesn't require the planning commission to be involved. So just to allay the perception that nothing's going on in town because planning commission hasn't been called, isn't necessarily true. We've got other things that are going on all the time. Planning commission didn't have to be convened because of the project over on Manhattan originally, as an example. There's no need for that. So, because they were doing everything per code. So, thank you. I point taken, and I know they are planning on meeting again next month. So, we got a motion, we got a second. Just remember where we're at. To affirm the negative opinion of the zoning board. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pop,
Yes.
Grayson,
No.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Holston,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item for the board's review and consider.
Okay, sorry, real quick. Because there's not an actual ordinance on it, we don't need to track that for any reason. Would it even be worth giving it a resolution number or anything? Just a understanding. Yeah, Larry just reminded me also pertaining to that last issue. The board did authorize contacting, I believe, Tesco, who's been involved in helping us with the TIF districting, who's very familiar with our layout here, and I believe they actually helped us previously with some of our zoning issues years ago. The board did authorize Tesco being recruited to help with that, and they will probably be at some point meeting with the planning commission as well to review those issues. So, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item for the board's consideration, if the board recalls at the last board meeting, Administrator Batista mentioned that we should adopt the ordinance to the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code. I believe it was given this information by our staff. Therefore, it's up for the board's review and consideration.
I'll make that motion.
Gonzalez and Raisik?
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Adopting this, what kind of cost is involved to the builder of facility? How much does it add to the cost?
It's specifically, DJ, if you want to answer that, but I believe from what I understand, it doesn't add a cost per se to the builder. What it does is compel them to use the standards as of 2015, which had to do with energy efficiency of air conditioners and furnaces and electrical and things of that sort.
Well, not electrical, but more or less, the 2015 adopted code is the state statute. It's the state mandated code from Illinois. So this 2015 International Energy Conservation Code, there is a Illinois version with amendments. We need to make sure that this states that we are adopting the 2015 Illinois International Energy Conservation Code with amendments because Illinois is a little bit different. But basically what it does is it makes the homeowner builder who's getting new stuff have energy efficient windows based on the Illinois state statute. Most of that stuff is now in compliance right now as builders and new windows and doors and things of that nature are meeting those R values. But because of now how tight properties seem to be sealed up when furnaces get replaced, that recirculatory outside air, they don't have the leaky windows anymore of those natures. It may be required for the energy code to be able to have that more efficient, fuel-efficient furnace. I believe there was talk about the furnaces not being able to get, bless you, 80% furnaces anymore, and I believe this will probably now eliminate that so that people will have to have those higher efficient furnaces. But it is adopted effective January 1st of this year. That adopted code was put into effect. This just more finalizes that. We had to follow that, and we've been following that thus far in the building department. So what it really follows and what it adds to the cost, it's kind of unknown because those costs seem to be about the same across the board. What they were charging for windows or furnaces then, they're still kind of charging for windows and furnaces now. So it's really hard to kind of gauge exactly anything more that they're going to have to pay for that.
So can I clarify, if I could just based on Superintendent Cruzel's comments there, can I ask Trustee Gonzalez and Trustee Razik on the motion to stipulate the Illinois version?
Yeah.
So is that a yes? Trustee Gonzalez? Trustee Razik, you're good with that? Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Holston?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And the last item was there's an ordinance,
I'm sorry, ordinance number.
oh, I'm sorry.
1755.
Thank you.
An ordinance regulating the parking of vehicles within the village of Monee. I'm sorry, for temporary situations. This is presently we have Title VI, Chapter 3, that pertaining to foreseen situations. There are situations where there's large events or construction projects, and what this ordinance is addressing that, where the police department, public works department, or the administrator shall have the right to post signs on a temporary basis. The sign will be removed once the crisis or the construction project is completed. It pertains to all vehicles, which would include trucks, cars, campers, buses, motorcycles, and recreation vehicles. You see every so often where there is an event out there, you see the no parking sign. What this ordinance does is give the administration the right to install that parking sign until the event has been completed. A fine structure is set forth in the ordinance. It's up for the board's review and consideration.
And I think this is motivated based on Trustee Razik pertaining to public safety, police, whatever. But it was motivated partly because with this new temporary access situation over there on Cleveland, Sunrise, Roosevelt.
Correct, as well as that, Mayor, and as well as now that the village is the proud owner of a street sweeper, there's going to be times where we have to provide no parking signs for certain periods of time so that we can maintain and clean our streets. And when we did that the last time, we didn't, posted it. People violated. We have a few instances and issues, and so this just kind of reaffirms the ability, whether it's safety, maintenance, otherwise, to be able to just perform no parking restrictions based on whatever's going to happen. For detours, right away, road constructions, maintenance, for that short period of time with proper notification.
Okay. Again, this would only be for temporary measures. Anything that would be permanent has always come before the board because we actually have time to deal with those issues.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a motion yet?
I'm waiting on
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion?
that. Wilson and Horn? Yes, sir.
I was okay with this, and I really don't want to go home, so I really don't want to drag this out, but I was okay until I heard the word sweeper. For us to tell people they can't park in front of an area because we're sweeping, I'm not sure qualifies as an emergency.
Well, that's not so much an emergency, but it's temporary. It's temporary posting, like when we got sidewalks being repaired or roads being
Sidewalks being repaired, all the other stuff I understand. Sweeping is not an emergency. People have a right to park in front of their homes and other areas, and this puts a big imposition on the public.
Okay.
It's my input, just my input.
Fair enough. I think taking that into consideration, Superintendent Cruzel will recognize that reservation and address it accordingly.
How do you clean the streets then? David, I have to respond to that. You don't put a sign up, so you can do it without skipping around with the sweeper.
We budgeted certain hours to be able to pay for that. It's just that repetitive nature. We'll try to address it as much as possible. If we have to go back in those rare cases, we'll address it. We've done it in the past when we had to pay other companies those 3 days. It was a policy and a procedure we did. We have signage already made for it to help address that issue. when we were paying a contractor before. Are we a little more at liberty now that we own the equipment? Absolutely, I'll take that in consideration. And at moving 2.5 and 3 miles an hour when we're actually performing that service, to go back doesn't seem like it would be a big deal, but sometimes it would. But we'll address that issue, sir, and I'll take that into consideration.
Trustee Warren, do you have a question?
No.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston.
Yes?
Warren.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Raisik.
Yes.
And Gonzalez.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2.
1755.
656. Understood. We already did K4, Larry. K5, I think we already did that. Sorry, it was in 2 places. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I do need to go back and make an appointment for the front office supervisor. So if I can, I'd like to go back to and have a follow-up on H1. Just to clarify, I'd like to make recommend the appointment of Michelle Powell to the position of front office supervisor.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
That was Pop and Horn. Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Raisik.
Yes.
And Gonzalez.
Yes.
Did she get a gator? I'm just had to throw that in. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Old business, I don't believe we have any. New business, if we could, Superintendent Cruzel brought up a point. We haven't had we've had a lot going on last month and a half, 2 months, I guess. I would like to have a committee of the whole meeting for the first meeting in August. And I think based on the fact that we haven't had one in a while, can we have that one start at 5 o'clock if that's possible? Just so we have time.
What's the date?
What are we discussing?
Well, I know,
The point of the first meeting of the month was to have a committee.
I understand it, but we've also said that if we didn't have one, we'd let people know, but I'm saying on record that I believe we'll have enough content that we should have a meeting that we'll discuss. Obviously, we'll leave it open-ended for legislative issues, but we'll also address topics of committee related to public works specifically, for sure. And if I hear something from the other departments that they have a need to bring things up, at that time we can do that as well. So.
In the sense, for all respect, time.
I get it, and I'm
It
just,
wasn't to run that meeting and then run a board meeting to run till 9 o'clock. It was just to try to get the board more involved.
understood. So, based on that, if the board's consent, we would like to have a committee of the whole, August 10th, is it, Mike?
Yeah.
August 10th at 5 o'clock. If that's not okay, we'll do 5:30. Board's recommendation, just trying to be respectful of staff that also needs to be present, so it doesn't have too much of
So you think we need an hour and a half?
a, we can make it an hour, and then if it runs into the regular meeting, that's okay too. I mean, we do that.
Sorry, what time is that?
5.
More 6 o'clock?
About 5:30.
5:30 gives you an hour, because when we have had,
5:30, I mean, 6 is not enough time. 5:30. 5:30. About 5:30.
5:30, okay?
Crystal, okay. 9? 5:30?
So 5:30 on August 10th.
I'll be retired on.
Okay,
Shush.
all right, thank you.
For clarity, please, Mayor, with this meeting of the whole, I need to make sure that discussions are happening with the trustees, that they know what's going on in the town and the community, and with respect to the trustees and the time, if they're concerned about getting out and getting done at a board meeting to start at 6:30, to preserve time, to put that presentation to them within an hour to discuss.
If it takes longer, it takes longer. I'm just trying to,
Are we in agreement that there's a lot going on in this town, and there's a lot that's going to be going on next year as well, and for as many departments as I oversee and coordinate, I don't want to feel like anybody's left out. Okay, or they don't know, or they're not a part of it. I don't want to hear that. So if they're not a part of it, it's not for a lack of trying.
understood.
So if an hour is enough for these guys to be able to discuss that and they want to be a part of that,
If it goes an hour and a half and we start the board at 7, that's okay.
we were kind of
You just
given.
dressed us all down?
No, if we were given, as department heads, a little bit more of a consensus that the meetings of the whole were going to be what they were for the first board meeting of the month, and that's what we talked about, and the board was a formality. It wasn't to be rushed through the board meeting of the whole to get to the board meeting and talk about all the other stuff.
Understood. We will address that. Also, in the future, what I'd like to do, because it seems like at times the department head will communicate with their department, coordinator liaison, if you will, but not necessarily have all that information on a DJ. You have a pile of data. I'm going to ask the department heads to have that information available and to be assembled as part of the packet. So when information is provided as much as possible to an individual trustee for a department, that information is also made available to the other trustees as well, even though that they may not be your direct point of contact. That information will be readily available to all trustees. Clerk, deputy clerk, I'm assuming we understand what I'm saying. Is that so when a department head has information they're sharing, we're going to make sure that's distributed to all, not just their individual trustees to make a report, because DJ will give somebody a wealth of insight and knowledge, a report that oftentimes may be summarized to 3 or 4 sentences, and there's a lot of other data that needs to be shared as well. So I'm asking department heads at this point to also make sure that all the trustees receive that data across the board. So, and I do understand your concern. So the meeting will be at 5:30 on August 10th. If it takes longer, it takes longer. If it doesn't, okay. And if you have anything specifically you'd like to have addressed that we perhaps need to have on the agenda or something like that, let me know. Anything else under new business? Okay, open to the public. Is there anybody left? Non-agenda items?
You stay right there.
Non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to remind everyone that tomorrow evening, Senator Pauline Harris will be here in Village Hall conducting a town hall meeting.
To the mic.
For everyone.
Just a reminder to everyone that tomorrow evening, Senator Napoleon Harris will be in the Village Hall. State Senator Napoleon Harris from the 15th District will be conducting a town hall meeting here in the boardroom to discuss matters that are occurring in Springfield, and also just have some availability to meet with his constituents and show you all that he's representing. I believe it's at 7?
Yeah, 7 to 8.
7 to 8.
Can somebody put that on the Facebook page tomorrow too?
We'll make sure
Is there, I thought already 7 to 8.
There it is.
We'll make sure it gets put out there tomorrow.
So the community page too.
Yep, understood.
Okay. Refreshments, sir?
You bring them? I'll bring some blackberries if somebody knows what to do with them. Anyway, thank you, Mr. David. Anybody else? Executive session has been exhausted. Motion to adjourn, the time is now 9:22 on Wednesday, July 27. Roll call, please.